Part 3. Revolution and Counter-Revolution. Chapter 8. Reformers and Their Fate. 6. In the matter of his opposition to caste, Buddha practiced what he preached. He did what the Aryan Society refused to do. In the Aryan Society, the Shudra or low-caste man could never become a Brahmin. But Buddha not only preached against caste but admitted the Shudra and the low caste to the rank of a Bhikku, who held the same rank in Buddhism as the Brahman did in Brahmanism. As Rhys Davis points out, that everyone should be allowed to learn, that everyone, having certain abilities, should be allowed to teach, and that, if he does teach, he should teach all to all, keeping nothing back, shutting no one out. In the first place, as regards his own order, over which alone he had complete control, he ignores completely and absolutely all advantages or disadvantages arising from birth, occupation, and social status, and sweeping away all barriers and disabilities arising from the arbitrary rules of mere ceremonial or social impurity. One of the most distinguished members of his order, the very one of them who was referred to as the chief authority after Gotama himself, on the rules of the order, was Upali, who had formerly been a barber, one of the despised occupations. So Sunita, one of the brethren whose verses are chosen for insertion in the Thera Gatha, was a Pukkusa, one of the low tribes. Sati, the propounder of a deadly heresy, was of the sons of the fisherfolk, afterwards a low caste, and even then an occupation, on account of its cruelty, particularly abhorred. Nanda was a cowherd. The two Panthakas were born out of wedlock, to a girl of good family through intercourse with a slave, so that by the rule laid down in Manu 31, they were actually outcasts. Kappa was the daughter of a deer-stalker, Punna and Punnika had been slave girls. Sumangalamata was daughter and wife to workers in rushes, and Subha was the daughter of a smith. More instances could doubtless be quoted and others will become known when more texts are published. It does not show much historical insight to sneer at the numbers as small, and to suggest that the supposed enlightenment or liberality was mere presence. The facts speak for themselves, and the percentage of low-born members was probably in fair proportion to the percentage of persons belonging to the despised Jatis and Sipas as compared with the rest of the population. Thus of the Theras mentioned in the Thera Gatha we know the social position of 60, of whom 5 are mentioned above, that is, 81.5% of the whole number were base-born. It is most likely that this is just about the proportion which persons in similar social rank bore to the rest of the population. Just as Buddha leveled up the position of the Shudras and the low-caste men by admitting them to the highest rank, namely that of Bhikkhus, he also leveled up the position of women. In the Aryan Society, women were placed on the same position as the Shudras, and in all Aryan literature women and Shudras are spoken of together as persons belonging to the same status. Both of them were denied the right to take sannyas, as sannyas was the only way open to salvation. Women and Shudras were beyond salvation. Broke this Aryan rule in the case of women as he did in the case of the Shudras.
Hello?
Just as a Shudra could become a Bhikku, so a woman could become a nun. This
Hello?
was taken to the highest status then conceivable in the eyes of the Aryan Society.
Another
leaders of the Aryan Society was the issue of the ethics of teachers and teaching. The leaders of the Aryan Society held the view that learning and education was the privilege of the Brahmins, Kshatriyas and Vaishyas. The Shudras were not entitled to education. They insisted that it would be danger to social order if they taught women or any males not twice born. Buddha repudiated this Aryan doctrine. As pointed out by Rhys Davis on this question is that everyone should be allowed to learn, that everyone, having certain abilities, should be allowed to teach, and that, if he does teach, he should teach all to all, keeping nothing back, shutting no one out. In this connection reference may be made to the dialogue between Buddha and the Brahman Lohikka, and which is known as the Lohikka Sutta. Lohikka Sutta. Some points in the ethics of teaching. 1. Thus have I heard. The Exalted One, when once passing on a tour through the Kosala districts with a great multitude of the members of the order, with about 500 bhikshus, arrived at Salavataka, village surrounded by a row of sala trees. Now at that time Lohikka the Brahman was established at Salavithaka, a spot teeming with life, with much grassland and woodland and corn, on a royal domain granted him by King Pasenadi of Kosala, as a royal gift, with power over it as if he were the king. 2. Now at that time Lohikka the Brahman was thinking of harboring the following wicked view: suppose that a Samana or a Brahmana have reached up to some good state of mind, then he should tell no one else about it. For what can one man do for another? To tell others would be like the man who, having broken through an old bond, should entangle himself in a new one. Like that, I say, is this desire to declare to others, it is a form of lust. For what can one man do for another? Now Lohikka the Brahman heard the news. They say that the Samana Gotama, of the sons of the Sakyas, who went out from the Sakya clan to adopt the religious life, has now arrived, with a great company of the brethren of his order, on his tour through the Kosala districts, at Salavithaka. Now regarding that venerable Gotama, such is the high reputation that has been noised abroad, that exalted one is an arhat, fully awakened in wisdom and goodness, happy, with knowledge of the worlds, unsurpassed as a guide to mortals willing to be led, a teacher for gods and men, an exalted one, a Buddha. He, by himself thoroughly knows, and sees as it were face to face, this universe including the worlds above of the gods, the Brahmans, and the Maras, and the world below with its Samanas and Brahmans, its princes, and peoples, and having known it, he makes his knowledge known to others. The truth, lovely in its origin, lovely in its progress, lovely in consummation, doth he proclaim both in the spirit and in the letter. The higher life doth he make known in all its fullness, and in all its purity. And good is it to pay visits to arhats like that. For then Lohikka the Brahman said to Basika the barber, Come now, good Basika, go where the Samana Gotama is staying, and on your arrival, ask in my name as to whether his sickness and indisposition as abated, as to his health and vigor and condition of ease, and speak thus, may the venerable Gotama, and with him the brethren of the order, accept the tomorrow's meal from Lohikka the Brahman. 5. Very well, sir, said Basika the barber, acquiescing in the word of Lohikka the Brahman, and did so even as he had been enjoined. And the exalted one consented, by silence, to his request. 6. And when Basika the barber perceived that the exalted one had consented, he rose from his seat, and passing the exalted one with his right hand towards him, went to Lohikka the Brahman, and on his arrival spoke to him thus. We addressed that exalted one, Sir, in your name, even as you commanded. And the exalted one hath consented to come. 7. Then Lohikka the Brahman, when the night had passed, made ready at his own dwelling place sweet food, both hard and soft, and said to Basika the barber, Come now, good Basika, go where the Samana Gotama is staying, and on your arrival, announce the time to him, saying, It is time, O Gotama, and the meal is ready. Very well, sir, said Basika the barber in assent to the words of Lohikka the Brahman, and did so even as he had been enjoined. And the exalted one, who had robed himself early in the morning, went robed, and carrying his bowl with him, with the brethren of the order, towards Salavithaka. 8. Now, as he went, Basika the barber walked step by step, behind the exalted one. And he said to him, The following wicked opinion has occurred to Lohikka the Brahman. Suppose that a Samana or a Brahmana have reached up to some good state of mind, then he should tell no one else about it. For what can one man do for another? To tell others would be like the man who, having broken through an old bond, should entangle himself in a new one. Like that, I say, is this desire to declare to others, it is a form of lust. 'Twere well, sir, if the exalted one would disabuse his mind thereof. For what can one man do for another? That may well be, Basika, that may well be. 9. And the exalted one went unto the dwelling place of Lohikka the Brahman, and sat down on the seat prepared for him. And Lohikka the Brahman satisfied the order, with the Buddha at its head. With his own hand, with sweet food both hard and soft, until they refused any more. And when the exalted one had finished his meal, and had cleansed the bowl and his hands, Lohikka the Brahman brought a low seat and sat down beside him. And to him, thus seated, the exalted one spake as follows. Is it true what they say, Lohikka, that the following wicked opinion has arisen in your mind? And he set forth the opinion as above set forth. That is so, Gotama. 10. Now what think you, Lohikka? Are you not established at Salavithika? Yes, that is so, Gotama. Then suppose, Lohikka, one were to speak thus, Lohikka the Brahman has domain at Salavithika. Let him alone enjoy all the revenue, and all the produce of Salavithika, allowing nothing to anybody else. Would the utterer of that speech be danger maker as touching the men who live in dependence upon you, or not? He would be danger maker, Gotama. And making that danger, would he be a person who sympathized with their welfare, or not? He would not be considering their welfare, Gotama. And not considering their welfare, would his heart stand fast in love towards them, or in enmity? In enmity, Gotama. But when one's heart stands fast in enmity, is that unsound doctrine, or sound? It is unsound doctrine, Gotama. Now if a man hold unsound doctrine, Lohikka, I declare that one of two future births will be his lot, either purgatory, or rebirth as an animal. 11. Now what think you, Lohikka? Is not King Pasenadi of Kosala in possession of Kasi and Kosala? Yes, that is so, Gotama. Then suppose, Lohikka, one were to speak thus, King Pasenadi of Kosala is in possession of Kasi and Kosala. Let him enjoy all the revenue and all the produce of Kasi and Kosala, allowing nothing to anybody else. Would the utterer of that speech be a danger maker as touching the men who live in dependence on King Pasenadi of Kosala, both you yourself and others, or not? He would be danger maker, Gotama. And making that danger, would he be a person who sympathized with their welfare, or not? He would not be considering their welfare, Gotama. And not considering their welfare, would his heart stand fast in love toward them, or in enmity? In enmity, Gotama. But when one's heart stands fast in enmity, is that unsound doctrine, or sound? It is unsound doctrine, Gotama. Now if a man hold unsound doctrine, Lohikka, I declare that one of two future births will be his lot, either purgatory, or rebirth as an animal. 12 and 14. So then, Lohikka, you admit that he who should say that you, being in occupation of Salavithika, should therefore, yourself enjoy all the revenue and produce thereof, bestowing nothing on anyone else, and he who should say that King Pasenadi of Kosala, being in power over Kasi and Kosala, should therefore himself enjoy all the revenue and produce thereof, bestowing nothing on anyone else, would be making danger for those living in dependence upon you, or for those you and others living in dependence upon the king. And that those who thus make danger for others, must be wanting in sympathy for them. And that the man wanting in sympathy has his heart set fast in enmity. And that to have one's heart set fast in enmity is unsound doctrine. 13 and 15. Then just so, Lohikka, he who should say, suppose a Samana or a Brahmana to have reached up to some good state of mind, then should he tell no one else about it? For what can one man do for another? To tell others would be like the man who, having broken through an old bond, should entangle himself in a new one. Like that, I say, is this desire to declare to others, it is a form of lust. Just so he, who should say, thus, would be putting obstacles in the way of those clansmen who, having taken upon themselves the doctrine and discipline set forth by him who has won the truth, have attained to great distinction therein, to the fruit of conversion, for instance, or to the fruit of once returning, or to the fruit of never returning, or even to arhatship. He would be putting obstacles in the way of those who are bringing to fruition the course of conduct that will lead to rebirth in states of bliss in heaven. But putting obstacles in their way, he would be out of sympathy for their welfare. Being out of sympathy for their welfare, his heart would become established in enmity, and when one's heart is established in enmity, that is unsound doctrine. Now if a man hold unsound doctrine, Lohikka, I declare that one of two future births will be his lot, either purgatory, or rebirth as an animal. 16. There are these three sorts of teachers in the world, Lohikka, who are worthy of blame, and whosoever should blame such a one, his rebuke would be justified, in accord with the facts and the truth, not improper. What are the three? In the first place, Lohikka, there is a sort of teacher who has not himself attained to that aim of samanaship for the sake of which he left his home and adopted the homeless life. Without having himself attained to it, he teaches a doctrine, Dhamma, to his hearers, saying, "This is good for you, this will make you happy." Then those hearers of his neither listen to him, nor give ear to his words, nor become steadfast in heart through their knowledge thereof. They go their own way, apart from the teaching of the Master. Such a teacher may be rebuked, setting out these facts, and adding, "You are like one who should make advances to her who keeps repulsing him, or should embrace her who turns her face away from him. Like that, do I say, is this lust of yours, to go on posing as a teacher of men, no one heeding, since they trust you not? For what, then, can one man do for another?" This, Lohikka, is the first sort of teacher in the world worthy of blame. And whosoever should blame such a one, his rebuke would be justified, in accord with the facts and the truth, not improper. 17. In the second place, Lohikka, there is a sort of teacher who has not himself attained to that aim of samanship for the sake of which he left his home and adopted the homeless life. Without having himself attained to it, he teaches a doctrine to his hearers, saying, "This is good for you, that will make you happy." And to him his disciples listen, they give ears to his words, they become steadfast in heart by their understanding what is said, and they go not their own way, apart from the teaching of the Master. Such a teacher may be rebuked, setting out these facts and adding, "You are like a man who, neglecting his own field, should take thought to weed out his neighbor's field. Like that, do I say, is this lust of yours, to go on teaching others when you have not taught yourself? For what, then, can one man do for another?" This, Lohikka, is the second sort of teacher in the world worthy of blame. And whosoever should blame such a one, his rebuke would be justified, in accord with the facts and the truth, not improper. 18. And again, Lohikka, in the third place, there is a sort of teacher who has himself attained to that aim of samanaship for the sake of which he left his home and adopted the homeless life. Having himself attained it, he teaches the doctrine to his hearers, saying, "This is good for you, that will make you happy." But those hearers of his neither listen to him, nor give ear to his words, nor become steadfast in heart through understanding thereof. They go their own way, apart from the teaching of the Master. Such a teacher may be rebuked, setting out these facts, and adding, "You are like a man who, having broken through an old bond, should entangle himself in a new one. Like that, do I say, is this lust of yours, to go on teaching when you have not trained yourself to teach? For what, then, can one man do for another?" This, Lohikka, is the third sort of teacher in the world worthy of blame. And whosoever should blame such a one, his rebuke would be justified, in accord with the facts and the truth, not improper. And these, Lohikka, are the three sorts of teachers of which I spoke. 19. And when he had thus spoken, Lohikka, the Brahman spake thus to the Exalted One, "But is there, Gotama, any sort of teacher not worthy of blame in the world?" Yes, Lohikka, there is a teacher not worthy, in the world of blame. And what sort of a teacher, Gotama, is so? The answer is in the words of the exposition set out above in the Samanaphala, as follows. 1. The appearance of a Tathagata, one who won the truth, his preaching, the conversion of a hearer, his adoption of the homeless state. 2. The minor details of mere morality that he practices. 3. The confidence of heart he gains from this practice. 4. The paragraph on guarded is the door of his senses. 5. The paragraph on mindful and self-possessed. 6. The paragraph on simplicity of life, being content with little. 7. The paragraphs on emancipation, ill temper, laziness, worry and perplexity. 8. The paragraph on the joy and peace that, as a result of this emancipation, fills his whole being. 9. The paragraphs on the 4 raptures, ghanas. 10. The paragraphs on the insight arising from knowledge, the knowledge of the first path. 11. The paragraphs on the realization of the 4 noble truths, the destruction of the intoxications, lust, delusions, becombings, and ignorance, and the attainment of arhatship. The refrain through and the closing paragraph is, and whosoever the teacher be, Lohikka, under whom the disciple attains to distinction so excellent as that Lohikka is a teacher not open to blame in the world. And whosoever should blame such a one, his rebuke would be unjustifiable, not in accord either with the facts or with the truth, without good ground. 78. And when he had thus spoken, Lohikka the Brahman said to the Exalted One, Just, Gotama, as if a man had caught hold of a man, falling over the precipitous edge of purgatory, by the hair of his head and lifted him up safe back on the firm land, just so have I, on the point of falling into purgatory, been lifted back onto the land by the Venerable Gotama. Most excellent, O Gotama, are the words of thy mouth, most excellent. Just as if a man were to set up what has been thrown down, or were to reveal what has been hidden away, or were to point out the right road to him who has gone astray, or were to bring a light into the darkness so that those who had eyes could see external forms, just even so has the truth been made known to me, in many a figure, by the Venerable Gotama. And I, even I, betake myself to the Venerable Gotama as my guide, to the doctrine and to the order. May the Venerable Gotama accept me as a disciple, as one who, from this day forth as long as life endures, has taken him as his guide.
Yeah, like if a teacher has attained a knowledge at a certain level, he should not share it with others and keep it to himself, like Brahman. So then Gautama, he explains him that if a king has his kingdom and he is only taking the benefit of it, is that good? Like if the people in the kingdom don't get that benefit. So this way he tries to explain, Gautama tries to explain him what would happen if a teacher doesn't share the knowledge like with everybody equally. And then the different like with different questions he's trying to explain that.
Yep, that's true. 3 प्रकार के गुरु सचमुच आक्षेप के योग्य होते हैं, जो श्रमण भाव को प्राप्त किए बिना ही श्रावक को धर्म सिखाते हैं और श्रावक उनकी बात सुनते नहीं है। इन गुरुओं का यह कृत ऐसा लगता है मानो मुंह फेरे हुए आलिंगन करना चाहते हो। दूसरा, जो श्रमण भाव के बिना ही श्रावकों को धर्म सिखाते हैं और श्रावक उनकी बात सुनते हैं। इन गुरुओं का ये कृत्य ऐसा लगता है मानो अपने खेत की सफाई छोड़कर दूसरे का खेत सफाई करना चाहते हो। तीसरा, जो श्रमक भाव को प्राप्त कर श्रावकों को धर्म सिखाते हैं परंतु श्रावक उनकी बात नहीं सुनते। इन गुरुओं का एक कृत्य ऐसा लगता है मानो किसी पुराने बंधन को काटकर नया बंधन खड़ा करना चाहते हो। संसार में ऐसे भी गुरु होते हैं जिन पर आक्षेप नहीं किया जा सकता। जब संसार में कोई तथागत उत्पन्न होता है, उसके द्वारा साक्षात्कार किए गए धर्म के प्रति श्रद्धावान होकर कोई व्यक्ति शील संपन्न हो समाधि का अभ्यास करता हुआ प्रथम से लेकर चतुर्थ ध्यान को क्रमश प्राप्त कर उससे विहार करते हुए उससे विद्वत्ता हासिल कर लेता है। ऐसा गुरु आक्षेप के योग्य नहीं होता। ऐसा कि जब कोई व्यक्ति निर्मल किए हुए सामायिक चित्त को विपස්සना ज्ञान के लिए अथवा असर्व को सही के ज्ञान के लिए नवाता है, जबकि यह प्रज्ञापूर्वक जान लेता है कि जन्म समाप्त हुआ, ब्रह्मचर्यवास पूरा हुआ, जो करना था सो कर लिया, इससे परे या आना नहीं। ऐसे गुरु भी आक्षेप के योग्य नहीं होता। ये हिंदी मध्ये दिला आहे ते, ठीक है।
So far in this book, so this is volume 3 of Dr. Ambedkar's writings and speeches, and we've started with the chapter Reformers and Their Fate. I think that is chapter number 8. So in this chapter so far, what Dr. Ambedkar wants to say that first few chapters, so first few points in there was how Buddha was against Brahminical system. In terms of Buddha was against, first he explains how Buddha was yajna, and the sacrifices that are made in the yajna. So he was completely against of it, and he explained it through one of the suttas. Then later on he did talk about Ambata Sutta. In that Buddha was against the caste system. So that time as well there were the caste systems like Brahman, Vaishya, Kshatriya and Shudra. So Ambata was a Brahmin, and he goes to Buddha, and then Buddha tells him that how caste system, knowledge by birth or the caste system which is based on the birth is not good. So it is based on your knowledge. It should be based on your knowledge and the learnings that you do and the way you practice it. It's not only the knowledge, but the way you practice it is also important. That's what he has explained earlier. Now, in this particular chapter, the way I see is Ambedkar, initially he explains that not only Buddha was against the caste system, but he also he did not even preach only about being against of the caste system. He practiced it as well. So that means in his disciples, there were a lot of disciples who were at the higher rank, Shudra or lower caste community. Immediately after him, the one which is next to Buddha is Upali, and I believe he was from lower caste, from the Shudra community. That time, as such, based on the Aryan Society, education was not allowed for Shudras and women. So that is called as Dvijas, like twice born. In this book, it is called as twice born, which is called as Dvija. So that means Shudras and women were not allowed to for any education. And Buddha not only got them as a disciple, Shudra as well as women. So there were nuns in his disciples. So he not only preached about it, but he also practiced it in his own behavior. And now in this particular sutta, he explains the teachers, the worthiness of the teachers, and what kind of teachers are good and who should teach and so on. Because earlier, even nowadays, like you see in Hindu, this thing, it is called as like Guru Devo, Guru Brahma, Guru Devo, Maheshwara, something like that, right? So whatever Guru says is good. That's the last thing, and that's only because Brahmins were the only teachers that time, and they wanted to keep that hierarchy that way. So they gave the highest rank for the teachers. But in this particular chapter, like the Sutta, Ambedkar explains how what kind of teachers are not worthy for teaching, and that's mainly because this Brahmin, Lohikka, he was main in that particular village, and he had that feeling that whatever he had learned so far, that is his own learning, and he should not share it with others. And that is, if he wants to share with others, that time teachers will get the wages as well, right? So they will expect something in return. So that is because of lust. So he thinks that I should not share with anyone, mainly because of lust. I have everything. Why should I share with everyone, right? I don't need any money in return. I should not share my knowledge for this thing. So that kind of feeling he had. So Buddha explains that it is not good. He gives two examples. One mainly that he was the main in that particular village. He was collecting the revenues for the king. So if he did not share that revenue with the villagers, or he keeps that everything to himself, will that be good? And he says no. And then he gives the example of the king of Kosala. So like he is the king. He gets all the revenue, but if he does not share with anyone else, that will not be good as well. So these kind of examples that he gives in this particular sutta. Now, while explaining that, he does explain about three types of teachers who are not worthy of teaching. One is who doesn't have the proper knowledge, who has not attained that level of doctrine, and he wants to teach. At the same time, his students doesn't listen to him. So first of all, he doesn't know anything, and then his students also doesn't listen to him. So that kind of situation is not good. Then second thing is he doesn't know anything. He has not achieved the level of doctrine, but his students are listening to him. They are well listeners. This situation is also not good, because whatever the students are going to listen to him, that is not to the up to mark, which is not good. And then those students are going to carry forward with the same level of knowledge. So that is also not good. And then the third type of teachers who are not worthy of teaching is, even though he has achieved the level of doctrine, but if he cannot, his students are not listening to him. So he is not able to convey his teachings to the student. So that kind of teaching is also not good. So that level of teacher is not good. That's what Buddha says in this. And then when Lohikka asks, like, okay, fine, this level of teachers are not good, and what kind of teachers which are good? Then Buddha tells him about the teachers who are good. And that is basically covered in this sutta, which is called as Samana Pala Sutta. Samana Pala Sutta is something like Samana is the one who has left the house, homeless. That means it was like Buddha who left the house in search of knowledge to seek the enlightenment and to find the truth. So that's how it is. Like this particular sutta talks about the teacher who is worthy of teaching, and that has all those details, like who has a mindful self-focused, who is emancipated, who is not ill-tempered, who is not lazy, and so on. There are so many things which are given in this paragraph. So it not only talks about the teachers who are not worthy of teaching, but also gives explanation on what type of teachers are good. And and then basically as a conclusion, this becomes his after listening to all these things.